Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on AP Predictability. We are going to get started shortly. We see folks still logging on, but we appreciate you joining us today, and we're excited about this new solution, so we can't wait to show you what we've created. So we'll be going live with introductions in just a minute or so. Alrighty, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Looks like we have a lot of the folks who registered already here, so others will come on in. So welcome to our next presentation on our Explore OnBase series. Today we're going to show AP Predictability. This is a solution that our engineers came up with in working through some of the development for OnBase using OnBase Workview. And so we're excited to share this because we think this is going to really help folks get some good visibility and predictability into their accounts payable. So today the presentation is being done by Jack Roberts. Jack Roberts is a longtime engineer in the OnBase world for over 20 years and also the founder of TSC. So Jack, you want to go ahead and go over the agenda?
Thanks, Tom. Sounds good. Hello, everyone. We will have a quick agenda today. Today's session should be fairly quick, and we'll get you excited and then let you go do your daily work. So with that, we're going to talk about AP Solutions 1.0. That's what we're going to start with first. A lot of companies have automated their AP solution so they can introduce new things. So we're going to talk about how that worked. And then we're going to then look at AP Predictability, also known as AP Solution 2.0. We think that this new solution will be really helpful, especially for the C-level folks to be able to see where they're at with their payables and what needs to be paid and when. We'll wrap it up with a few questions, and then we are good to go with Q&A. All right, let's start it off. So what is AP Solution 1.0? Well, a lot of us have kind of realized what's the purpose and the pain behind that. And we can see that the big thing is we need to get some continuity. We need to make sure that we can know that if we got an invoice in, it was properly scanned in or received into our system, went through the workflows, and hopefully we could go through and make sure they got approved on time and take advantage of any kind of discounts may be applied. But in reality, we're seeing that there's still a lot of poor cash management out there that we need to take care of. And people are still doing things with spreadsheets and trying to manage things via email, which isn't always the best. So hopefully people have moved on and started to automate this process a little bit. And this is where AP Predictability comes in. We start talking about increasing the visibility for the entire process. So what does that look like, the process we're talking about? Well, you may have scan or email that you're importing in and you want to index and classify it. What does that really mean? Well, basically we're talking about receiving in invoices and determining what is an invoice versus what is an attachment to the invoice or a supporting document to the invoice. And then we're going to try to do some OCR on that. And we really like to bring up our friends at Cloud OCR. This solution has probably been one of the best solutions we've been able to implement in a long time with respect to being able to stand it up and having hands off. We can literally get the system stood up within an hour and you can begin working if you really wanted to. Cloud OCR, if you've ever worked with any kind of true automated data capture solution, it takes away a lot of the pain points where you have to monitor the system. You say, okay, what happens when the new technology comes around? This is truly acting as a service so that we can then pass the invoices over. They lift the data we need. They send that data back to us and life is good. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through this. But once we have that information back. It goes back into OnBase, goes through some workflows where we can approve invoices and then really have users retrieve those if they need to. But it's a great way to go out and automate your AP process. So talking about Cloud OCR just a little bit further, the cool thing is you can put in invoices or your forms and really just let those go through, and they do all the hard lifting for you. So if you want to monitor emails, you can do that. If you want to monitor an actual directory, you can do that. Or you can use your OnBase solution already to monitor in emails and or directories, bring that stuff in. There's a direct connector with Cloud OCR and OnBase, so we can pass the images over, let it lift the data off, and then send the data back. The cool thing is they do all the heavy lifting. So anything that doesn't pass the threshold for Cloud OCR, an actual human will look at it and verify that it's correct. Same thing if you've ever done any of this with matching a vendor. Sometimes that's difficult because a vendor may have an abbreviation or just a logo, but they have their address. Anything that the system can't automatically match an invoice to a vendor, a human will look at it and take care of all that for you. So your data that you get back is really top quality. Just giving a high level view of what we see here. You can bring in email attachments that automatically classify with the attachment versus the email. You can definitely go through and do all kinds of things with eliminating overnight shipping back and forth with these invoices. And then you don't even have to worry about technology from that standpoint with, oh, is another server we have to have? Do we have to worry about there's window updates to it? All this stuff, they handle it all for you. Perfect software as a service. As we move on, we start looking at some of the options for AP workflow features. It's still part of AP 1.0. You can see that we have approval limits set that people can have, and they're used to seeing that along with load balance queues. So maybe we have an AP clerk who's responsible from vendors A through D. So if we get a vendor in and their name is ABC Vendor Corporation, then that would go to a specific clerk. And you can have all this go through and see what's happening with it, monitor it, and move forward. We can also check for related documents. As you guys hopefully have been through this before with POs and packing slips. We can definitely have a split screen so we can do data entry if we need to on the invoice, or be able to pull up multiple documents to see them once. Then we even have system tasks that require no human intervention to help automate the process even further. One of the things that we want to talk about too is once you're there, you need to really start looking at your vendor management as well. Tom mentioned WorkView as another opportunity that we can talk to you about, where you can manage your vendors and say, okay, what vendors are responding on time? Which ones have best terms for this solution we need? Are there any issues with the vendors? Do we need to do onboarding with those vendors so they can make sure they did code of conduct and all that kind of stuff? Everything can be captured in that one solution. And that's still AP 1.0. And then here's a good example of what an actual workflow might look like. As you can see, it lays out some of the queues for you, and you can work things. And the one that's highlighted, the invoice exceptions, that's usually the main one that it comes in and says, okay, did I have a valid invoice number? Was the date wrong? Did I have the math add up correctly? All those things will come in. Did I even have a vendor? Did the vendor not match? So you can have that come into your exceptions queue, route it around manually, and work with it. So that was really a good example of the AP solutions that a lot of people put in for AP 1.0. But now it's time to look at the next step above. So what do we do once we get that system in there? Well, we really need to let the system start coming forward and working for us. And this is the solution that we are here today to talk about with respect to AP Predictability, or as we call it, APP. You'll be able to see an overview of all of your payables all at once. A lot of times we get siloed into seeing where we're at with a department's invoices, which you can still do. But if we're a controller or you're the finance manager and you need to see where we're at with all of our payables, this gives you a nice way to see everything that's out there, what's going to be due. We can also see, is it coming up on a time where we're at quarter end? Are there anything that we're out there that we need to say, okay, let's hold off and pay that next quarter? So this gives you a visibility from the C-level on down. It does work on-prem or hosted, so it doesn't really matter. The nice thing is there's no really additional Highline modules you need if you have the simplified pricing model. The big thing is you need reporting dashboards in OnBase, and from there we can make the magic happen. The cool thing is all the magic really happens behind the scenes. It doesn't have to be resource intensive at all. The best part is the actual presentation layer, which are the reports. We have some canned reports that we built for this solution, but then that typically leads into building a few additional reports. One of the things we like about using the OnBase reports is that it can be ad hoc, meaning we can show it one time as needed, or you can have it scheduled to be sent out to a user. So if they come in at work every day at 8 a.m., we can have these reports sitting in their inbox ready for them to go. A quick little overview of what we've got with respect to overall invoices. If I want to see the entire thing, it's just a nice way to see where these invoices are at, how much is out there. I can even see quickly how much time they spend in a queue, so I know, oh, somebody's not doing their job on the invoice approval side, or is it invoices sitting in there waiting to be worked? So these are different examples that you can use the reporting at OnBase to really build out some good key graphics and show the presentation layer to your C-levels. This next report actually gives us a chance to see from a high level what's going on. And I'm going to take you in on the next slide. I'll take you into an actual demonstration, live demonstration. But this is just an example that you can see on the screen. We've got multiple things going on. We started at the top left corner. We have what's the concept of active and inactive invoices. I'll explain that when I get to the demo. But the pie chart does a good job of showing you by month what to expect based on previous history that we've learned, what to expect in these different months of what we're going to pay. So continuing clockwise, we go to the right. Now we can see some card level views here. That's this by month due. And you can see each month is there. We can see by breakdown what are we expecting to pay. And then if we look at the third quadrant here, we can see by type. By our types that we have set up for the solution are ad hoc, meaning we got that in. It's a one-time invoice only. We could have an annual invoice. We know that, for instance, the OnBase subscription comes with renewal every year. So we could utilize this report to say, okay, I can't forget about my OnBase renewal when it comes up. And so it'll help us remind us of that. Then we have our monthly invoices that are reoccurring that we can say, okay, we should expect at least these on a monthly basis. And then we can do quarterly as well. Then the last quadrant, we see an actual grid view. The purpose of that is just to be able to drill down, and you can go right into an invoice if you so desire. So if you want to see one of those grid lines, you can double click on it and it'll actually open the invoice. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and see a live demonstration. Before I get going too far, any questions show up yet, Jack?
Hi, Jack. Yes, actually there are. Firstly, what versions of OnBase do these AP solutions require?
As long as you're on OnBase 17 and above, you're good.
Perfect,
you could really be on 16. You could really be on 16, but reporting dashboards really came about, and 16 is kind of the first run. 17 is getting better, but the later versions obviously work really well because you have more reporting features. Good question.
Perfect, thank you. Quickly, another question we're getting in is we see that these reports are shown in the OnBase Unity client. Do these reports only work in OnBase Unity?
Another good question. Since this is using reporting dashboards, this could be in the Unity client or it could be in the web client. You can use either or. And I mentioned that it could be hosted or on-prem. So if you're using the Highland Cloud, you still have access to these either way, via the web or Unity. Cool.
Perfect, thank you. These are great questions. Keep them coming.
All right, thanks, Jack. So now to go into the actual demonstration itself, you'll see I mentioned a little bit before about how this is an interactive report, so it's doing things on the fly. So I say I don't want to see active invoices. I click on this button, you'll see that the little changes happen here, and everything is tied together. So I can see my pie chart is here, but if I wanted to see only the invoices for January that I could expect, if I click on that little tile, now you can see here's all of January, and there are the invoices that I have some in annual, and I have a couple that are monthly due. As we come through, if I want to go to May, for instance, you'll see it change. But I can come back and say, you know what, I really want to clear that filter. And if I can click on this, it'll clear that out. And I can see I can go back to my previous list. Then I can go to my ad hoc, my cycle down here and say what ad hoc is coming through. And that's 24,574. I can see a list of any of those when I want to. So if I want to just double click on one of these, I can see the invoice come up and it'll pop up right for me and I can see it, work with it, and do whatever I need to do. as it thinks and it thinks and it thinks. Okay, so here we go. And you can see how, again, it filters things down. So if I want to go for June and ad hoc, I only have one. So now I'm using both of these to really drill down even further. So we can see from a standpoint of what's going to be due on reoccurring. Now, if you have invoices coming in that have never come in before, you're still going to have those. It's not going to be able to predict something that hasn't happened before. But if you start having patterns show up, the software is going to be able to build these reports for you and dynamically grow and show you how things work. If we wanted to, again, clear this out, and if we want to include the inactive, so active means these are the last invoices we got so that we can use these as a predictive pattern. Once an invoice comes in, let's say our OnBase annual subscription comes due in December of 2022. Well, now that I have a new invoice coming in for OnBase for 2023, I want to make that old invoice inactive. So now I have the latest. So typically we have a little bit of uptick in our annual subscription. That will then count for that, and we can display it right here. So if I click on inactive, now I can see there's a lot bigger number, and I can kind of see by month what happened when I include the inactive versus the active. So it's pretty straightforward, but we really like how intuitive the solution is. The dashboards give you a quick way to see documents. You can drill down to see the individual documents, but you can also get a feel for where we're at by month or by cycle. Any questions before I go back to the presentation? Nope, all good. Okay. So we saw that. So now we'll just wrap up here and get you on your way pretty soon, but just wanted to let you know that this solution is available. We definitely encourage you to talk to your account manager and see what they have to say about how you can get an example of what that looks like for your environment. We always encourage people to remember we offer OnBase managed services. This helps where you don't really have a full-time OnBase admin, but you know OnBase is critical to your organization. These could be used for all kinds of options. It's not used for project work, but it definitely is used for vetting out solutions, saying, okay, this would be our next option to build out a workflow for. Does that make sense? Or we need a work view app. Does that really make sense? So you can do strategic planning. We can even go through and make sure we have administrative tasks covered, like your daily things going into your docket maintenance queues. All those things are covered under your managed services. So we really encourage you to reach out and talk to us soon about that. We're excited about continuing our support for these webinars. Our next one is going to be OnBase and Workday integration on May 18th, 2023. For those of you that may have been around and heard about Workday solution, previously it had been for AP only. Now there's one with their HR capital management solution as well. So then you can go forward and have HR and AP certified solutions with OnBase. Hear about the latest and greatest with the 22.1 release as we see some of the new features coming about. If you have other items you really want to know about, or you're like, hey, we always wondered about this. Can this be done in OnBase, or what's a common way to do like Salesforce integration, or anything you want to talk about with OnBase, let us know. Shoot us over an email at info@tsc-ecm.com, and we would be happy to get that on the schedule. Okay, last chance. Jack, do we have any other questions roll in?
Nope, quiet so far.
Excellent. All right. Well, I told you we'd make it quick today. We are done with the presentation. We thank everybody for showing up. We look forward to talking to you all soon. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.